Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, apologies. It's been fantastic, I think, for us in Europe to hear these experiences from Africa and other parts of the world. On the face of it, I think community conservation is considered to be more advanced in an African and indeed elsewhere context, but actually that's true. And while many of the issues are on the face of it different, I think in Europe we have a lot to learn. There is a lot of relevance. A lot of the issues are actually very similar. So I plan to share the stories from the Rewilding Europe initiative's approach to community conservation so far. I serve as the enterprise director for Rewilding Europe and focus, as the title suggests, on the enterprise component. But there's a much wider vision for Rewilding Europe, which involves, as you've heard in previous presentations, making Europe a wilder place by striving to restore large-scale natural ecosystems. We are an initiative founded by 4 original organizations, the WWF organization, ARC Nature, Wild Wonders of Europe, and Conservation Capital. And we work in partnership with a number of locally focused conservation organizations across Europe. There are 3 principal pillars to the Rewilding Europe initiative. Rewilding, if you like, the conservation pillar. Communication, which is led by the Wild Wonders of Europe team. And enterprise. As you've heard in previous presentations, the rural economy in Europe is changing, and this, if you like, forms the backdrop to the Rewilding Europe initiative, in that presently many people are leaving rural communities. The social structure of many parts of rural Europe is changing. What we're left with is a generally aging population in many parts of Europe, and if you like, a series of what we might consider problems, certainly social problems, economic problems, which of course are causing people to leave in the first place. And the Rewilding Europe initiative is trying to consider and indeed believes that there are actually some opportunities that may come out of these problems in terms of trying to create new nature-based economies based upon wildlife, wild values, wilderness in rural parts of Europe. But it's not a straightforward thing to do. I think many of the previous presenters today, in particular, have talked about and indeed the others here in this session have talked about the significant investment, the significant expertise, the various steps that have to be followed in order to give at least a chance of success in this regard. So what we've done within the Rewilding Europe team is used our combined experience of many other parts of the world. Our managing director, Franz Schapers, has spent a long time working in association with Maxi and Chris and their team in Namibia. I've been fortunate I've split my time between Scotland and Kenya and have worked in Africa for many years. The others in the team have similarly been exposed to things outside Europe, and what we've done is try to, if you like, extract the key lessons from that, try and look at things from a European perspective, and learn from the work of organisations like the African Wildlife Foundation, who've done a lot of work in many parts of Africa, but in conservancies in northern Kenya, of IRDNC and WWF in Namibia, and indeed some of the organisations that we've heard of this afternoon. So from that, we've distilled what we consider to be a series of key ingredients for success. These are by no means exhaustive, but and I apologise if I repeat some of the principles that have been shared by earlier speakers, but I think it's important to do so. First of all, perhaps stating the obvious, there must be some strong conservation values present. There has to be a reason for these areas to be protected in order for a conservancy to come into being in the first place, and for there to be values for the future enterprises and other related aspects. Property rights are absolutely fundamental. As Maxi and Chris explained in their presentation in particular, the system of allowing or enabling communities since independence in Namibia to gain the right to to utilise their natural resources has been a crucial underpinning factor in what's been achieved there. In the European context, we're looking very carefully with our local partners at the areas we work in to find out who owns the land, who has the hunting rights, what is the forestry situation, what are the fishing rights, etc., if it's a marine context or a river system based context. It's absolutely essential for the community in question in a community conservancy context to have the rights to manage, to utilise the land and the resources on that land. A supportive national policy and regulatory framework is extremely helpful, as again in the Namibian example, that national coordinated approach has been a huge contributing factor to the success there. We don't have that yet in Europe, but there are certain existing legislation contexts that we can work with. We believe that many of the issues which underlie some of the rural challenges we have in Europe are the same, and consequently we feel that with the efforts that Rewilding Europe and other organisations are making, this supportive national framework could come to be. Again, as Chris and Maxie mentioned, there has to be a commercial market potential for the area. Unless the conservation context is going to be perpetually financed by governments and philanthropists, which is necessary in certain conservation contexts. Where there is, however, an enterprise development possibility, then that means that there's probably more chances for the ongoing financial sustainability of that conservancy. So we're also looking not only at the conservation context, but looking to the future. If with good management there can actually be enterprises developed there, then that's a key factor, a key ingredient. Hugely important is building awareness, building understanding in the community of what's possible. What is certain is that community conservancies will fail if they're driven by outside organisations. Outside organisations might in fact do bring the skills, bring the initial finance, but it has to be something that the local people want to do and become increasingly the drivers of that. Within that, having some early adopters, some local champions is absolutely vital. People who really get behind this and drive it, as I say, and they're very important in terms of winning over the skeptics, the doubters, because there always will be, and these local champions are best placed to do that. What Rewilding Europe are doing, together with our partners in the various areas of focus, is first of all investing in the key natural assets. I mentioned the linkages between strong conservation values and the commercial market potential. So, for example, in the Southern Carpathians, we are together with the WWF Danube Carpathian programme shortly going to be reintroducing the European bison into parts of the Southern Carpathians, which will provide a fantastic future basis for community conservation and related enterprise. In Velebit in Croatia, we are investing in boosting the numbers of Balkan chamois, beavers in the Danube Delta, and many other activities are planned over the coming years. Several of our friends who presented earlier have mentioned the importance of governance, of investing in community institutions and processes and systems which result in genuine community representation and a system by which benefits from enterprises and other funding and benefits which might flow to the communities in question. Management is very important. When I refer to management in the Rewilding Europe context, we're actually trying to rewild areas and let nature and natural processes take its course. But one nevertheless needs a human interface around that to ensure that the benefits that might flow from associated enterprises and other aspects are captured. We in the enterprise team are looking at providing support for enterprises at a local level, but also trying to see how we can encourage businesses from outside these areas to team up with existing local businesses to perhaps exploit new opportunities in these areas. So it's a mixture of technical support, capacity building and training. These gentlemen in Bulgaria are building a wildlife hide here as part of an ongoing programme led by several local organisations to develop wildlife tourism in the area and associated benefit. And finance, as my colleague Giles mentioned in the presentation this morning, we have over the past 18 months been researching and planning the launch of Rewilding Europe Capital, which we believe is Europe's first dedicated conservation investment fund, very small scale at the moment, but following the example that the African Wildlife Foundation and with Conservation Capital have developed in an African context, we hope that there may be and believe there's scope to grow that and to result in finance being available for ever larger scale enterprises both in our rewilding area focus and elsewhere. The education, ongoing education for the wider community, particularly the younger generation who will take jobs and benefit from the conservancies, is extremely important. So in terms of where we're working so far, Rewilding Europe is a very young initiative as yet, but probably the most advanced community conservancy context that we're exploring is in the Danube Delta in Romania, where in the outer delta, a community called Santa Georgi have got the rights to a large area of communal land, which together with other areas which are managed by the state, there is a possibility to create a conservancy structure. What we've done so far, together with, again, the WWF team in Bucharest, have identified the legal basis using existing Romanian laws to create a conservancy. Together, again, with our partners, we've been looking at the natural context, the conservation context, the rewilding possibilities. And what we're now also doing is looking at the opportunity to adapt some of the existing natural resource-based livelihoods towards something which could provide a sustainable revenue stream for the Conservancy once created. We're also embarking on an in-depth process of community consultation. We're trying to learn from the community what might be the key issues, very much like Susan mentioned in the Mali context. If we go through that process, things which we don't presently know about will emerge and will help inform our thinking. And equally, they will come to understand what might be possible using lessons learned from elsewhere. We hope to harness existing enterprises. We often think in terms of new enterprises, but it's extremely important to look always first for ways to support existing enterprises, and the Danube Delta offers that possibility. In Velebit, a wonderful part of Croatia, fantastic range of mountains and a marine environment. We are focusing on an area which is a different underlying property rights context. There's a number of privately owned small land units belonging to local community members, and they adjoin the Klinika National Park. So we're presently investing in the wildlife assets, as I mentioned, also in developing wildlife tourism experiences, working with existing local nature tour operators and potential nature tour operators to develop those. And we're supporting a series, or intend to support a series of local product-based businesses. The reason for that is both, yes, they're relevant. For example, this business here has a fantastic range of wild honey based on honey products at certain times of the year, which become available, very much linked to wildness and nature. But this also involves an association of about 200 local families. So it's a great segue into the community, if you like, for us by supporting this kind of business. In the future, as I say, it's early days, but we feel there may be community conservancy possibilities as part of our wider strategy in places like the Southern Carpathians, as mentioned, in Greater Laponia, in northern Sweden, where we're just starting to work. There may be possibilities with the Sami peoples who have traditional rights to areas of land. In the Apennines, in central Italy, where again we're just starting to work, a number of communities have already said to our local partners there that they would be willing to set aside some land for the purpose of rewilding and related enterprise development, which we're very excited about. And also, much closer to home here in Western Iberia, our teams there, Fundación Naturaleza y Hombre and Asocio Naturaleza in Portugal, are identifying areas where there may be potential to work with municipalities to create what may become community conservancies going forward. So this is very much a snapshot of what we're starting out to do. As I say, a young initiative with big ambitions, but we hope to introduce a lot more of what we're doing and what we plan to do during our full-day Rewilding Europe seminar on the 9th, and hope that you'll be able to join us. Thank you.
Okay.